Perhaps if I can throw I want to ask for a vote quickly, a show of hands. Those who think ESMA should be strengthened and those who don't. First, the yeses, hands up. Those who don't think it needs to be strengthened. That's interesting. Well, then it's carried. Carol. Let's see, I mean, that's how it works in Brussels, isn't it? You know, show of hands.
This is the echo chamber.
No, but the tragedy of the situation is that the budgets of the supervisory authorities have already been cut for this year. I met Andrea and Ria last week, EBA, and he said our budgets have already been cut now, meaning that we can no longer invite delegated experts from other supervisory authorities from member states because we have to top up, we have to pay for their allowance. We don't have the money anymore. Imagine, say we have 170 or 180 people at ESMA. The US has, with the Dodd-Frank rule, created their consumer bureau, which looks at basically consumer financial services issues. They have now 1,500 people. We are arguing in Europe about a few more or a few less. But the Commission now gives priority to SRB, Single Resolution Board, and as a result, the other three ESAs budgets have been cut. What do we need to do for Capital Markets Union? It's basically enforcement. What does it mean, enforcement? Have more people to look after the rules, but we don't have it. And an additional thing is what Howard mentioned, is the governance of ESMA. Basically, ESMA's director and chairman have no vote. It's the member states who have the votes. We create SSM, and the SSM, we have the supervisory board, where the supervisory board have 6 votes, and the member states have the other votes. I mean, the reflection of what you have in the Governing Council of the ECB. At the ESA's level, essentially, you have the member states only which have a vote. So what can the ESAs do? Very little. And on top of that, the Commission closes its eyes.
You might have got a different answer if you'd asked whether the EBA needs to be strengthened now in the light of the SSM.
Yeah. And of course, but it's the same situation for all three because they're by the Commission.
Should it be the same for all three? I would argue, personally, I'd pitch for ESMA, but I'm not sure I'd pitch for EBA.
I mean, if you see the supervisory work, I mean, they explained to me last week, let's say the delay which we have at the moment in the implementing rules for CRD4 and now for the BRRD, I mean, they have about a delay of 30 ITS and RTS. So, which is enormous because of lack of people.
Jacques, you look like you're about to launch in again. Are you happy with the way this is going?
Carol is absolutely right. I mean, it's really incomprehensible that these authorities are restrained in their actions. Yes. It's true for the three of them, and particularly true today for ESMA. I would agree with you. But EBA is also a point in case. So this is what I think we really believe. I would add one thing, which is, I think, consistent with the thoughts of Howard. He hasn't expressed them today, but I think he's on that line, which is that we need more consistency in the way supervision is enacted, because you are bound to have some divergence in terms of the regulation country to country. But what is important then is to ensure that the supervisors, who are the ones who enact all this, act in a relatively consistent way. And the best way you can do that is through the authorities. So I think they should gain more, not only in terms of writing the rule book, which is important, but also in terms of how do the nations enact all this. And so they have a lot of work to do, and Carol is right. It's not the right time to cut them back.
But then the argument to that also comes, which I frequently have argued for as a legislator, that we have to stop making directives. Because directives direct national legislation, which means you have an enormous amount of flexibility, which means you then end up with 20 different approaches to issues. If you say, let's have a regulation which is short, to the point, and is a framework regulation on some very core issues to make sure that you actually get, I think it'll be easier to get equivalence in many areas.
Arlene, on bank resolution and recovery, we had a directive because it was impossible to have a regulation because it's the first time we really have harmonization of insolvency law at European level.
Yes. Well,
and it's a big step forward.
It is a big step forward, but I would say on a global level, we still have faced the issue of harmonization and mutual acceptance of regimes and so forth. I mean, that's what basically resulted in us having now on this particular topic, which is probably the ultimate litmus test for financial stability, we have more and more a tendency of refragmentation into domestic systems. The FDIC has its own system, the British will have the system, Switzerland has its own system, and in order to harmonize that has proven to be extremely, extremely difficult. But I think you're right, and within the Eurozone, CRD4 is the resolution mechanism there. It's probably one of the prime or the best examples that we have seen so far.
Could I just add one thing?
Absolutely.
If the legislators are, I would say, foresighted enough to limit in the resolution legislation that is going to be finalized, to limit the amount and the importance of the, I would call it the predetermined local part of the TLAC.
Yes.
If they can limit that to the minimum, then you'll have confidence in the system. Yes. If, on the contrary, you enlarge the sort of preempted local part, then you're going to have a fragmented thing, and perhaps you will have more occasions of failure.